Hey, how's it going? Seth here from REtipster.com, and today we're going to talk about an online banking, bookkeeping, and payment collection solution called Baselane. So Baselane is a service that's really intended for a real estate investor of any kind to help them establish their business bank account, and not just their bank account, but also a really easy automated way to handle their bookkeeping and collect payments from their tenants. Say if you own a property or multiple properties and you're renting those properties out and collecting payments from your tenants, it can make that process really easy and automated, which actually made me think at first, is this like a property management software? Is that what's going on here? And the answer is kinda, but not really. There is some overlap, but it's definitely not a full-blown top to bottom property management platform. There is some overlap, but what Baselane really excels at is that banking, bookkeeping, payment collection process. And it does offer some services beyond that where it can kind of point you to other places you can go to handle background checks and signing leases and that kind of thing. But really their bread and butter is those three things: banking, bookkeeping, payment collection. And in this video, I'm going to show you how each one of those things work on the Baselane platform, and you can kind of figure out if this is something that you want to have in your life and in your business. My goal by the time you get to the end of this video is for you to really understand how this software works so you can self-select and decide if this is something that you should be having in your business right now. Because I think for the right person, this nails a lot of very important problems. And by the way, REtipster does have an affiliate link to Baselane, so if you get through this video and if you found it helpful, click through our affiliate link. It'll help support our community and it'll help connect you with a super helpful service. It's retipster.com/Baselane. So if you're ready to go, I'll show you how this works. So one important thing to know before we even get into the actual inner workings of Baselane is that this company has kind of mastered the onboarding process. It is very, very easy to get started with Baselane. Like, you can seriously have your account up and running in less than 10 minutes, no problem. As long as you have all the basics you would normally need to open up a business bank account. In fact, you could even do it from their mobile app on your phone if you wanted to. It's that simple. And even if you're not a US citizen, say if you live abroad and you own real estate in the US and you want to use Baselane to handle all of your banking and bookkeeping on your US property, you can do that too. All you would need is your LLC registration paperwork and your employer identification number, and you're ready to go. You don't even need to be a US citizen or have your social security number or anything like that. Just pretty basic stuff. So once you do have your account all set up, the dashboard is going to look something like this. This is actually their demo account. My name is not Jessica, don't worry, but I just want to show you around so you understand like how to navigate through the dashboard once you get here, because it's really, really easy. So right up here at the top, you're going to see the big three things that Baselane provides, which is landlord banking, which is basically just where you hold your money, and rent collections. So it's super easy and automated to collect all the rent payments from your tenants. And by the way, even if you don't have like a proper rental property, like let's say if you owned like a storage unit or like a storage container somewhere and somebody was renting that from you, you could automate your payment collection for that kind of thing too. It's not just limited to rental properties in the conventional way that you and I normally think of them. That is kind of what the creators of Baselane had in mind when they made this, but just keep in mind, like, you don't have to fit inside that neat little box in order to use this software. It's pretty cool. And then over here we have bookkeeping. And it's also worth noting, depending on what kind of real estate investor you are, you may not have a need to collect rent payments from tenants. I know I don't as a land flipper, so I could still use Baselane. I just wouldn't have a use for that particular feature, which is fine. You'll also notice down here they've got a few other things you can use if you want to, like for example, landlord insurance, or you can create and sign lease documents, or you can use free tenant screening powered by TransUnion, or protect your assets by forming an LLC through Northwest Registered Agent. By the way, I have a whole separate video on how to do that. So like I mentioned earlier, Baselane is not an end-to-end property management software. That's not really the point of it. It's, again, just banking, bookkeeping, and payment collections. So if you do have a need for those other things, what they're doing here is referring you to their outside partners, so you can still get the job done, you're just not doing it through them. So getting back into Baselane's core bread and butter, let's start off with landlord banking and see how that works. So if we go over here to the left sidebar, we can see Baselane banking. And the way this works is you can add funds right here, and you can add them by transferring them from any other existing bank, or you can do a mobile check deposit if you want, or you can even do it with PayPal and Venmo if you want to. So they give you a lot of different ways to add funds to your bank account, and you can also send funds, and you can do this through an internal transfer. Say if you know of somebody else who has a Baselane account, that's super easy. Or you can do an ACH transfer, domestic wire transfer, or mail by check. Keep in mind, if you do the mail by check thing, it costs $2 per check. And one thing that's different about Baselane, you can order your checks through a third-party service, so you don't necessarily need to use this feature where you mail a check, but you can if you want to at your convenience. But if you do, it's going to cost you $2 a check. So just keep that in mind. And another really convenient thing about Baselane is that if you ever want to add an account, that is super simple to do. You can do it in like milliseconds. All you have to do is click Add Banking Account, and you can add a virtual account or open a new Baselane banking account. The main difference to this is that with a virtual account, the idea behind this is to organize separate funds within one bank account. So say if you want to have like one account for expenses and one account for taxes and one account for profit, that kind of thing, that's kind of what that's for. Or you can open up a new Baselane banking account that can then have those sub accounts or sub virtual accounts beneath it. And down here, you can see all the existing accounts that are within this account. We can click on any one of these things. We can see all the different activity that's happened beneath each one of these accounts and which property each transaction is associated with. So if you're a rental property landlord and you have a lot of different properties, this can be super useful for keeping things organized. And I will say the first time one of those transactions come through, you'll have to get in here and manually assign the relevant property to it and specify what type of expense it is. But after that, it's automated from there on out. So you don't have to keep doing it every single time. It just kind of happens on autopilot, which is a beautiful thing. One other cool thing is that within any of these accounts, you can have multiple virtual debit cards, and you can create these like that. I'll show you right here. All you have to do is go down here and click Add Virtual Card. You can select which account you want to add it from. We're going to do this one from the main account. We'll just call this test card here, and we can even set a spending limit. So say if we want to create a card for one of our employees or our property manager to do something for us, we can make sure they don't just drain our entire bank account and set limits there. So let's say we could do, I don't know, a couple $1,000s a day, that kind of thing. And we could select which property this is for. Let's pick this one right here and which category it's for. So we're going to say this would be like maybe cleaning and maintenance, that kind of thing, and then create the card. And once this is created, it sends a code to whichever phone number we want to assign it to. Say if it's our phone number or our employee's phone number, they can activate it and they have the card ready to go like right then. Even if they don't have like the physical card, they still have all the digits they would normally need to fill out any kind of a form online and get started with it. Or even like call somebody and give them the digits so they could use it that way. It's very, very quick, very seamless, very easy to do. Now, if we go over here to external accounts, so when you open up your Baselane account, what you're essentially going to have to do is get money into there from some other place, probably whatever other bank you're already starting with. Or if you're opening up a brand new LLC, this could be an injection from your personal bank account. Whatever bank account you're using, you can put that right here. It's really easy. They use Plaid to do this, and if you've ever used this before, it's awesome how it works. It's really, really simple and seamless to use. So for example, I have a bank account at Chase Bank. I could just pick Chase right here. Or what I could do is I could go back and type in whatever name my bank is, and it will show up here. So for example, my personal bank account is a Lake Michigan Credit Union, which is a smaller credit union. It's probably not going to show up here, but if I just type it out, it will show it right there. So there you go. It's super easy to use, whatever bank you're coming from. And once those bank accounts are in there, you can add funds to this account whenever you want pretty easily, or you could withdraw funds from this account to whatever that external bank account is pretty seamlessly too. Now, one thing you might wonder is Baselane really a bank? And the answer is no, it's actually not a bank. This is an online banking platform, and the bank that lives behind it is Thread Bank, which means when you put your money in your Baselane account, it's not being held by Baselane, it's being held by Thread Bank. So Baselane banking, super smooth, super cool, super easy to use and set up and maintain. It's awesome. But the nice thing about Baselane is that when we get into the bookkeeping side of things, it kind of fits like a glove with the banking side of things, because a lot of automations come into play. And it's kind of like if you got to do your bookkeeping anyway through something like QuickBooks or Xero, wouldn't it be nice if you could not have to do all the back and forth referencing your bank transactions and then bringing over all those journal entries to your accounting software? Well, if you're using Baselane bookkeeping, you can kind of avoid a lot of that stuff because it happens automatically. It's pretty sweet. We go down here to transactions. We can see all the activity that happened from our bank account, and it kind of comes right over here to the bookkeeping side of things. And again, there are some things you have to do with initial transactions to assign what kind of income or expense it is, or what property it's assigned to, that kind of thing, if you want to. But once that's all set, and once those transactions keep happening, it flows automatically over here to the bookkeeping side of things. There's also this analytics and reporting thing, which is awesome. You can just visually see what's going on if something is going particularly well or poorly with one or more properties. It's pretty easy to just visually see what's going on right here. It can kind of bring up any red flags if they come up. There's also this cash flow statement thing that can be automatically generated from the bookkeeping side of things. So again, instead of having to go to QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or whatever you're using, it all just happens right here, and it's free. So you don't have to pay for this software. It's part of your banking solution. It's pretty awesome. You can go ahead and download this statement and it'll give you an Excel spreadsheet that shows you all the same information. Now, granted, one thing I'll point out is that if a mistake was made, like if you messed something up or if something was just reported incorrectly for some reason, say if you misassigned a type of expense or the property or something like that, this is not going to fix those errors. Those errors will flow through right here, but it kind of works the same way with any accounting software. If you were doing your own accounting and you mess something up, those errors would be there too. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect. There may be little things that you need to, button up, but that's where your CPA or accountant can step in and help you out if you need help. There's also this tax package tab. This basically gives you all the exact information that your CPA or accountant is going to need to file your Schedule E or whatever is needed on your tax returns. So it just takes all this information, and rather than having to manually take it from one place to another and organize all this stuff, it just does it for you. It's pretty awesome. Like if you're a landlord and if you have any kind of struggles with bookkeeping or tax preparation or any of that stuff, there's a good chance Baselane could make your life a little easier. Now, there's also this property metrics thing in the sidebar, which can help you analyze the performance of each individual property in terms of its net operating income, its asset value, the return on equity, the cap rate, the cash on cash return. It looks like I'm currently selecting a blank property right now, so it's all zero, but this is a really nice way to just kind of stay on top of how is my property performing? A lot of times when we buy rentals and properties like this, we're doing it to try to hit certain financial goals, like certain ratios and objectives and that kind of thing. And this is a really good way to somewhat automatically stay on top of that and find out, is this property doing what I set out for it to do, or is it not? Does something need to change? What fundamentally is going wrong if this thing is not up to par with how I thought it was going to be? I know for a lot of the rental properties I've owned over the years, I've had to kind of go back and retroactively take all the numbers and plug them in and make sure it actually makes sense and is doing it right. And Baselane would have saved me a ton of time because it kind of just does that stuff automatically, which is pretty sweet. All right, now moving on to the property management section. Again, Baselane doesn't really provide landlord insurance, but they can point you to a company that does. That's what this first one is. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with that because that's not really Baselane proper. But what is Baselane proper is rent collection. This is one of the things they specialize in, and they make it really easy to collect rent on autopilot from whoever your tenants are. All you'd have to do is click Set up Rent Collection. And if you've ever used another rent collection service, this works a lot like that. It's a similar workflow. So if we wanted to add a new property, we could do that by clicking right here where it says add another property. Or if we already had the property set up, we could go ahead and select that. So I'm going to do that right here. And we will click continue. And we can say if we want the lease term to be fixed or month to month. And in my case, I'm going to say it's going to be fixed. And we can select the lease start date. Let's say this is going to be May 1 and it's going to end on April 30 of next year. And we'll go down here and put the rent amount. Let's just say it's $1,000. And this is going to be due on the 1st of every month. Go ahead and click continue. We are going to collect a security deposit. We'll say that is $1,000 too. And that's going to be due on May 1 as well. And I'm going to say this is not paid yet, so I'm going to leave that blank. Sometimes this might already be paid by the time you get to this point. So if it was, you could just check this box, but I'm not going to do that here. And then collect last month's rent up front. I'm not going to do that. This is a pretty clean hypothetical example. And then collect prorated rent. So again, I'm not going to do that, but just so you know, if you were starting midway through the month or something like that, this can figure it out and make it easy for you. And then we'll click continue, and then we can confirm our invoices, make sure that all looks right, and then click continue again, and then select the receiving bank accounts. So this is where we could say which account within our Baselane account we want this money to flow into. Presumably you've already got that set up. I'm just going to pick one of these here, and then you can select the account that you want to receive your security deposit at. Say if you had a separate account set aside where you don't want to touch it, you're just going to put all of your security deposit funds right there so that it's there in case you ever need it in the future, which is honestly a pretty smart way to do it. That's how most people should be doing this. But for a lot of people, because it's such a pain to set up new bank accounts in most normal banks, they don't do it the right way. But again, Baselane makes it so easy. There's no excuse not to do it the right way. So I'm going to say all of my security deposit funds are going to sit in this one over here. You also might notice profit first. So this isn't a bad outfit to work with if you want to implement profit first as well. It just Just side note, they make that stuff pretty easy here too. So we'll go ahead and click continue, and this is going to be a new tenant. We can put their name in here and their last name, their email and mobile phone, and then review the details, and it will send them an email to set everything up on their end to start making those payments. And this also provides a platform not only for you to get in and check and see what's going on, but also for that tenant to come in and see all their historical payments, how much they currently owe, if they're back due on anything, they can see all that stuff. And that tenant can make their rent payments through either a credit card, a debit card, or ACH. And any fees associated with any of those payment mediums can be put on the tenant to pay, not you. So let's get out of here and go down here to tenants. So depending on how many tenants you have, you can keep track of all of them right here and check in and see what their information is. If you need to reach out to them for some reason, say if they're past due on their rent, or if the rent amount is changing, you can contact them this way. Or if you just need to send them an email, their email address and phone numbers right here if you got to get a hold of them that way. Overall, Baselane is a pretty slick service to use. Some differences between Baselane and a property management software that are just important to note, just so you're not getting into this expecting full-blown property management software when it's not. So some examples of things that Baselane is not really set up to do is things like creating listing websites for your rental properties. Baselane just doesn't do that. Or tracking maintenance requests, or communicating with your tenants on the platform, or communicating with maintenance vendors on this platform. It's not really what Baselane is. This is mostly about tracking and receiving and sending money. Think about dollar signs, because if it has to do with money, chances are Baselane can help with that and help quite a bit. So depending on the complexity of your rental property business or just your real estate business, even if you're not into rental properties, how many tenants, how many properties there are, how many payments you have to collect, and how much other movement is going on with your properties that you need to control and manage, you can kind of use that to determine where Baselane should fit. And I'll also say a lot of these property management platforms, they don't handle this kind of banking stuff. So you're going to need a place to put your money one way or another. And Baselane is a pretty decent place to do that. Again, if you want to check out Baselane and give it a shot, don't forget to use the REtipster affiliate link. It'll help support the REtipster community, and you can have the benefit of using an awesome software like this that's going to cost you very little, if anything, to use. Just go to retipster.com/Baselane. That link is also going to be beneath this video if you want to click through that and help support REtipster. Thanks again for watching. I wish you all the best in your real estate business, and I'll talk to you again next time.